More than
People
70% of people tell the country is on the wrong track. They say the country is on the wrong track. If it's on the wrong track, that track follows 3.5 years of you being vice president and President Biden being president. That is what they're saying, 79% of them. Why are they saying that? If you're turning the page, you've been in office for 3.5 years.
And Donald Trump has been running for office.
But you've been the person holding the office.
Come on.
Madam
You
Vice
and I
President.
both know what I'm talking about. You and I both know what I'm talking about.
I actually don't. What are you talking about?
What I'm talking about is that over the last decade,
but
people
you're the
have
lever
become.
of power.
But listen, over the last decade, it is clear to me, and certainly the Republicans who are on stage with me.
That personally was my favorite part of the interview last night. And if you watch that, you can see why Kamala Harris's aides reportedly tried to cut her interview short with Brett Baier. But the interview showcased Harris's platform so well that the Trump campaign posted it in its entirety in an ad. So here to break it all down for us is Chris Bedford, our senior politics editor. So Chris, what stuck out to you the most about that interview last night?
Well, Kamala Harris had to have a mission, right, when she went in there? I mean, say what you will, CNN and MSNBC like to look down their nose at Fox News, but of the cable stations, it has by far the most independent voting viewers, people who are not necessarily part of either party. So she needs to reach out to those viewers. She doesn't need to do more MSNBC or CNN interviews or New York Times interviews. Those voters are on lock for her if they're going to come out at all. Tonight or Wednesday night was a night where she was going to try and reach a new audience, and she completely failed to do that. So if you look at the moments that have been pulled from this interview, Democrats said that she did great. She held her own in the Fox den. Republicans said that was an incredible devastation of Kamala Harris. What an awesome night. The media is trying to hide the whole thing. They say, well, it's a Rorschach test. If you look at the ink blots, Republicans thought it went great. Democrats thought it went great. Okay, well, let's get out of the D.C. bubble and look at what independent voters would have taken away from that. And you don't actually see her convincing independents on anything. You see her doubling down on a lot of some of the left-wing policies and yelling about Donald Trump. And hey, if that strategy was going to work, then she wouldn't have had to have gone on Brett Baier in the first place. And another takeaway I got from that, Democrats claim that she did great, but they can't point to any moment where she was doing well. They don't have any clips of her dominating or being intelligent and pushing that stuff out. That clip that you just showed, Donald Trump put it on TikTok last night. It got 10.5 million views. I was just talking to someone in the campaign an hour ago. As of an hour ago, it was 10.5 million loops that it's had. That's reach far beyond just the people who are tuning into political news. That's taking these clips, and they've been doing this now for the 2-week media tour that she's been on, taking these little moments and sending them out to people, spreading them through social media in places where they otherwise wouldn't reach. And, it actually kind of makes me understand a little bit why Donald Trump is a little less gung-ho to get rid of TikTok, which is dangerous and run by the Chinese and bad for our kids. Well, it's because it's giving millions and millions of views to these sort of political clips way outside the normal audience and reaching people in a way that hurts Kamala Harris.
Listen, it's terrible, but the algorithm knows me better than I know myself. Now, illegal immigration is a huge topic, so let's listen to what Kamala Harris said last night about that.
Immigration is one of the key issues that they're looking at this election, and specifically the influx of illegal immigrants from more than 150 countries. How many illegal immigrants would you estimate your administration has released into the country over the last 3.5 years?
Well, I'm glad you raised the issue of immigration because I agree with you. It is a topic of discussion that people want to rightly have. And you know what I'm going to talk about.
Yeah, but
right
do you
now,
just a number? Do you think it's 1 million, 3 million?
Brett, let's just get to the point. Okay, the point is that we have a broken immigration system that needs to be repaired.
So your Homeland Security Secretary said that 85% of apprehensions.
I'm not finished. We have
it's a rough estimate of 6 million people have been released into the country. And let me just finish. I'll get to the question. I promise you.
I was beginning to answer.
See, that's what we saw so much of in the interview last night, Chris, was the two of them talking over each other. And she hearkened back to, I'm not finished yet. Right? That was such a good moment for her in previous debates. She likes having that feeling. So what do you take away from that interaction?
So she showed up late to this interview. It was supposed to be 30 minutes. They wanted to constrict as much time as they could. So she showed up late and tried to get out of there early. So, and at the same time, Fox has lost a lot of credibility with a lot of viewers, and Brett Baier's got to go in there. He can't throw softballs. He needs to actually get answers. He needs to get some of the more Trump supporters who feel like they've been done wrong by Fox in the past interested in viewing again. So he's got to hit hard. And he's going to go and he's going to be firm and he's going to be polite because he's a professional. And that's what you sort of saw there. And Kamala Harris kept on trying to steer away from the question because, of course, no candidate wants to acknowledge how many crimes have been committed, and especially when it's in the millions and millions under her administration. But she couldn't get away. She couldn't explain. And I noticed exactly what you're talking about there. She kept on trying to get that lean-in kind of feminist point in, the I'm still talking, the yet she persisted, etc. And it just didn't work. And another thing that really stuck out to me is just how much Mitch McConnell and Lankford screwed over the Republican Party with their walking into what was so obviously a trap for the GOP. And I was here on Capitol Hill. Conservative senators, conservative House members were screaming from the rafters, listen, if you try to do this amnesty deal with the Democrats and try to tie the Trump administration's hands while at the same time granting amnesty and putting more border processors down on the border, not even cops or enforcement, then you are walking into a trap that will be used over and over again. And if you see over the last couple of weeks, things like Project 2025, which we were talking about a lot at the beginning of the show, Democrats don't talk about it anymore because it wasn't true and it never actually rang with the voters. No one cares. But they're still sticking with the McConnell immigration deal talking point because that actually is getting results from voters. And you heard that again last night.
She wanted to lean in, and she did lean in over and over again and finally fell over. And that's very interesting. But what's the fallout? Do you think, I mean, your take at the beginning here was, look, this isn't going to move the dial with independents. You know, she didn't win anyone over, which I think is definitely true. Do you think there's any other negative repercussions? I mean, how does it propel the, campaign forward? Are they going to do more interviews after this? Was this the game over moment that a lot of people on the right said it was last night?
No, the game is not over, especially when you're going up against a candidate who has raised $1 billion, or was it $3 billion? I can't even recall anymore, since she's launched her campaign. When you've got that much of an arsenal, you're able to direct ads in places and now all over Pennsylvania. The game is certainly not over. And despite the fact that you'll hear Republicans repeatedly list off all the swing states that they're winning in, you often hear them kind of just mumble through Pennsylvania. That's because they're tied, or sometimes she's even winning in Pennsylvania. And if they do not win Pennsylvania, the Republicans will not win the White House. So that's actually still an important piece that is in play here. But the Democrats are desperate. That's why you saw this play in the first place. They weren't even doing any interviews a little over 2 weeks ago. Now they're going on Brett Baier and going in for that lashing. That shows you that they're desperate. And if this doesn't change the polls in the right way, and it won't, they're going to get more desperate. So I actually have my column coming out. I won't cannibalize too much of it. Coming out in the Beltway Brief tomorrow morning. We can talk about it in the show tomorrow. Of, I think, a pretty big showdown on the Democratic Party that is coming and is going to happen if this trajectory continues.
I can't wait. I'm so excited for the Beltway Brief, which you can, by the way, go ahead and sign up for that as well at theblaze.com/Bedford. I'll make sure that people sign up for you, Chris, because your writing is so good every week, and they can tell just by watching you on the show. But there is something that it's not the Democrats, but it's kind of the Democrats that's going on, because there's nearly 100 staffers actually from the Labor Party. They were brought over to the United States to campaign in battleground states, and it's all funded by the Labor Party. So I have a big question, right? We fought a war. We shouldn't be involved in this anymore. Britain's over there. We are over here. So why is Britain getting involved in this election?
Oh, because they're all part of the globalist elite. They're all on the same team. Globalism, globalism, globalism. And this is it. And you see it all over. The Democrats have done this for years. I think it was Barack Obama sent Jim Messina and a couple other folks from his top campaign advising cabinet over to help advise in elections to knock Benjamin Netanyahu out of power in Israel, which was an unheard of level of public meddling. allies always go back and forth quietly, meddling in each other's internal politics, but it's become more brazen and more public. And the Labor government does not see any friend in Donald Trump, and they see a friend in trying to back Joe Biden, or excuse me, Kamala Harris. But how is that going to help you? I mean, if you're in Pennsylvania or Georgia, you're annoyed if someone from California knocks on your door and tells you who to vote for. Is an English accent actually going to help? I think that'll make it worse. And of course, I actually talked to some folks in Congress today who are looking into the legality of this. Were there contributions from the Democratic Party? Was this entirely paid for by a foreign government? Is this an in-kind contribution from a foreign government to an American campaign? Those rules are strict. Those rules are so strict that my Scottish cousins asked me to bring over MAGA hats in 2016 as a wedding gift because they weren't allowed to buy them on the website because they're foreigners. I brought over a bunch. They put them right on in the airport. Glaswegians are made different. But if they broke the law here, well, they may be in some trouble.
We like these cousins. We like these cousins a lot, and I want to meet them someday.
They're great people.
Riddle me this. We're sitting here, right? Let's be real. I'm sitting here today, and I'm sort of pacing back and forth, thinking there is not much time left before the big day, the big show everyone's been waiting for 4 years. And right now, things are oddly calm. Right? I mean, yeah, it's contentious, whatever. The news cycle is oddly calm the last few days. And the trend is definitely, as you've been saying, that the bottom is sort of falling out for Kamala. So, you really wonder, this is October, the month of surprises. Are there going to be any surprises between now and Election Day? Because right now, it looks like, smooth sailing, clean shot. But then again, that might be Charlie Brown running at the football again. That's what's in the back of everyone.
We know we can't have nice things, Chris. We know it.
I know. That sense of dread that you kind of had during the convention is starting to come back and say, what weirdness is going to happen? The assassination attempt was survived. What's next? And I get that same feeling as well. Talking to some folks just earlier this week, the kind of wonder was, have the Democrats used every October surprise they have? I mean, they've literally tried to put Donald Trump in prison. Like, they've used every trick they possibly can. They're still coming at him. You've got judgments potentially coming, but do the American people care? I mean, it reminds me of 2016 when Donald Trump, who was a world-famous guy, the Democrats tried to paint him as being rich and a womanizer. Like, that's baked into the cake. Everyone knew that about Donald Trump. No one was surprised about that. And they keep on just doubling down on this, trying to find something new. So far, there's got to be something out there, right? I feel it somewhere, but they've used every single card in the deck. What else is left? They've literally now tried to kill him twice. And by they, I just mean, the broader people here. I'm not any conspiratorial group in the closet. But what else could possibly come? Well, this has been an exciting season of election year.